Sorry. Yeah, she taught kindergarten for several years. So. I'm sorry? There's kindergarten. Okay, great. I'm sorry?
I'm with Miss Kleiman.
Okay, yeah, I don't know Miss Kleiman. No, it's actually Miss Kelsey. We share the same last name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, not always, but in my case, yes. Anybody else? Who was your teacher? Yes, in the blue. Yes.
Oh.
What's your name?
Oh, I'm Avery.
Okay, Avery. Yes.
I'm Miss White.
Okay, yes. I think I do know Miss White.
Oh yeah, I love her.
Great, great, great. So what brings you all to the Capitol today? What brought you here? Why'd you want to come?
Oh,
What's your name?
I'm Lauren, and I get my mom signed me for it.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
So,
I mean, it's a free day to be out of school, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a win right here.
I'm glad to be here.
Okay, okay. And what's so far in the middle? Yes. What's your name?
I was going to answer like what probably share what we've learned so far, but
Well, so it's a slightly different question. What is the best thing that you've done so far today?
Oh God.
Yes.
Hear the hearing on the state floor, on the Senate floor.
Oh, really? All right. So what was the most interesting thing there? I know what I think.
Well, I thought that one of the funniest parts was when they started joking about the lakes and the rivers because everybody was just having a good laugh over it. But also, I noticed how it was running very smoothly and they just got right through it and to the point. So I thought that was one of the best things about it.
Yeah, and if you go over to the House of Representatives, you will find the exact opposite. It does not run smoothly and is not to the point. Often off on tangents, but that's what happens when you get 99 members together as opposed to our group, which is a little bit more manageable with, how many do we have? 33. 33, somebody was listening today, that's great, yes, absolutely. I thought the most interesting part was when we talked about making the Goo Goo Cluster the official dessert of Tennessee. That's what I personally thought. You didn't hear that part, did you? No, it was really a joke. Actually, there is no official dessert, but perhaps there should be.
Make a bill.
Make a bill. Yes. Yeah. So what else do you want to know? What questions do you have? The bow tie. What's your name? Yeah.
Oh, me?
Yes.
No questions.
No question. What's your name?
Cole.
Cole. Right.
This is Vice President Cole.
All right. Congratulations. So how many are here in 8th grade? Raise your hand. Okay. How many in 7th? Okay.
I'm 7th grade.
Okay. And who's in 6th? We have anybody in 6th? Okay. All right. Well, that's a good group then. Good group. Well, as I said, I'm your state senator, so I represent I represent all of Germantown, and I represent parts of Memphis and Cordova, and in our terms are for, does anybody know how many years they are in the state Senate? Not 2, not 6. There's 6 in the U.S. Senate. They are 4. That's right. They're 4-year terms. And then in the House, they have how many year terms? 2. All right. And you already know how many of them there are and how many of us there are. So there is 1 state senator for how many state representatives?
1 to 3.
1 to 3 is the ratio, right? Yeah. So we represent about 200,000 people, and they represent 60-something thousand people as well. And it's a great honor to get to do it. And I also serve on several committees here too. Have you had a chance to view a committee yet? Has anybody? No, not yet. Are y'all planning on doing it today?
Well, we wanted to go see the education.
That's what I was going to say.
But
Yeah.
it moved to 2 o'clock, and our bus is leaving.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, the education committee would have been an interesting one to see, though I don't think today's calendar is all that terribly interesting, but compared to some of the others. But so we have. Who can explain to me how a bill is made? How it becomes a law? Only one? You've already answered it. Okay.
Wait, go ahead.
Yes, please. You didn't tell me your name.
Christopher.
All right,
Christopher Loftus.
Yeah.
President.
President.
Yes. So an issue is brought before the House as a issue that they think should be made into a law.
Bill made into a law.
And they have to vote on it. They have to see what is pros and cons, what is good and bad about why they should pass it, and then it gets passed up to the Senate after the House of Representatives, and the Senate votes on it.
Yeah, in Tennessee, we can actually go either way. So you can either start in the Senate or start in the House, either way. But you're right, in the U.S. Congress level, they're at least taxing and funding bills, they have to start in the House. That's right. Sorry, go ahead. And what happens if it passes both chambers?
Then it's made into a bill.
Well, it's still got to be signed by somebody.
Governor.
Governor's got to sign it. That's right. And if he doesn't, you know this. If you know this, I'm going to be really impressed. How could it still be law if he doesn't sign it? If he doesn't sign it, what's it called if he rejects it? Veto. Right. So he actually has 3 options.
Oh, don't sign it, sign it, or veto.
Exactly. And if he vetoes it, if anybody knows this, I'm going to be really impressed. If he vetoes it, what happens? How can it still become law after he vetoes it? Yeah? What do you think? Cole? No.
Well, you at first asked the
I
question.
changed the question.
Yeah,
Sorry. Not fair. All right. Do you know the answer? No? No? Okay. All right. What's your answer? What's your name?
Can it go back into the House or Senate and then they re-vote?
And re-vote on it. That's right. And it takes a vote of what to make it a law at that point? In Tennessee.
Majority. 35 to 34, something like that. Or no.
17 out of 33.
That's right. That's right. 17 out of 33. So you probably have all heard that it's really hard to override a veto. That's what that's called when the legislature goes ahead and votes on it, even after the governor has vetoed it. And you all have you've heard that because on the federal level and in the state constitutions of just about every state in America, it takes 2/3 vote when you come back to the House and Senate to override the veto. But you're absolutely right. What was your name?
Carson.
Carson was absolutely right that in Tennessee, you can actually override a veto with a simple majority, just 17 out of 33 in the Senate and 50 out of 99 in the House. So it's a different system. It makes it such that on paper, at least, we actually have, what would that be, a weaker or a stronger governor then? It would be a weaker on paper because that veto could be overridden with the same votes that it would took to get the bill to the governor in the first place. However, I will say in practice, we have always traditionally in this state had a very strong governor, including our current one. So then the one other thing I wanted to add to that whole story, though, is also that before you even get to the point of passing the House or the Senate, and did you see the Senate chambers? Let's see, you saw the Senate chambers. And you didn't see the House chambers because they did not meet today. But before it gets to that point, it's got to go through a committee system. So does anybody know what a committee system is? It's a smaller group of people. And on the Senate side, for example, we have committees that are generally made up of only 9 senators. And our job on the committees is to actually delve into the legislation or the proposed legislation with a little bit more detail and with a little bit more discussion than you would see on the floor of the Senate. Because by the time it gets there, as you correctly described, a lot of things have been worked out and it's probably going to pass at that point. But during the committee system and the committee part of when that's going through the committee before it gets to the floor, that's where a lot of the hard work is done. And that's also where a lot of the bills, if they're not going to be passed into law, that's ultimately, that's usually where they end up dying. So on the Senate side, we have committees that are made up of roughly 9 people. And on the House side, they have committees that are much larger, obviously. It could be as many as 20 people. But they also have subcommittees, which are even smaller, so that they can have members of sometimes maybe even 5 or 6 people who can be taking a look at a proposed bill. They can offer amendments to it as well. Who knows what an amendment is? Somebody else got to answer this question. Yes, sir. What's your name?
Patrick.
All right, Patrick. Explain how the amendment process works.
So basically, you decide on you come up with an issue and then you present that issue to a group of people, and it's basically a change on a law or something that has been decided.
Right. Yeah, it's just a change. It's a change. What was it? Can you think of a good amendment that we had yesterday? I'm trying to think. I'm only thinking of boring examples right now of amendments. But we had, let's see. Yeah, the only ones I can think of right now that we had yesterday were, we normally require, I'm on 3 different committees that I serve on the Senate side. One of them is called the Education Committee, which obviously deals with education.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure. Okay, great.
Okay, it's about this MIST stuff.
This stuff. I don't know what this is.
MIST.
Okay.
Testing.
Testing. That's
Miss
MIST.
testing.
All right.
Were you a part of that?
I need more information.
Were you a part of that?
I need more information.
Okay, you know, the decision of making, yeah, okay, you want to go Common Core? Whatever.
Okay.
Anyways,
You
having
gotta tell me what this
instead of
is, and I'll be happy to answer questions. Yeah.
a testing program that's on the computer instead of having to do TCAP.
Oh, okay. All right. Now I think I know what you're talking about. So we have the new tests. Obviously, we went from the TCAP to now the TNReady, and the TNReady was supposed to be ready, but the TNReady was not ready on the computer. It's only ready on the paper. So what I'm assuming then for your question is that the MIST was the computer program through which you took the TNReady?
So why couldn't we?
Yeah, I didn't have anything to do with that. I'm sorry, what?
Why did we change from TCAP to TNReady?
Well, that's a good question. So, and this helps further explain, the roles of government as well. I mean, this ultimately is what I think makes the American system of government work so well, and that is that we have a true separation of powers. Because, when you get into these countries where you just have one strong person leading, then that can really lead to corruption and very quickly. And that's the beauty of our system, is that you have people in different branches of the government who are all constantly doing their jobs, but also struggling ever so slightly with the other branches, and that ensures that no one person ends up, imposing tyranny on the rest of society. So it's up to the legislature to propose and to make the laws, the executive to sign them into law, that's the governor, and to sign them into law and to execute them, and then the courts to resolve any sorts of disputes that arise, whether they be through private parties or at times from the other two branches. And so with this system, we have decided on the legislative level that we did need to change the TCAP. And why is that? Because we have made a conscientious decision over the last, at the very least over the last 6 years, to really improve the rigor of our standards in Tennessee. We got, when I was first appointed to the Senate Education Committee, we had the U.S. Chamber of Commerce that gave us a grade on truth in advertising is what they called it. And they gave us a grade, A through F, on how we were doing in terms of being honest with our parents and honest with our students on how those students were doing on particular tests as compared to their peers in other states. And guess what grade we got? Right. Unfortunately, we got an F on truth in advertising. So we decided we're going to make some changes. We are going to actually make sure that our standards are just as rigorous as the standards in some of our other states and our other neighbors and our other peers. So we've started to ramp up the rigor involved in some of those tests. You've probably noticed this. Do you think, have y'all noticed that or not? What do you think?
Yes.
Yeah. So they have gotten more difficult, and that's why we went from the TCAP to a more rigorous TNReady test. Now there was another test that had originally been proposed through one of the Common Core curriculum that was called the PARC test, and we ended up deciding once again on the legislative level that we did not want to go with the PARC test. So we pulled back on that, and we went instead with this TNReady test. But now it's ultimately up to, I was getting back to my separation of powers idea, it's ultimately up to the executive branch to actually execute that decision that we at the legislative branch made. And so it's up to them to roll it out and make sure that it actually works on the ground and in the classrooms. And so we certainly had a bit of a glitch in that recently this year, but I'm hopeful that next year that's not going to happen again. So follow up, yes, sir.
And do you think it was too amped up from TCAP? Because when they show us the practice stuff, that's hard.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Now, you haven't actually taken the test yet, right? That's more in April.
Yeah.
Who started?
We're supposed to do half of it. We're supposed to do half of it earlier.
Okay.
But it didn't work.
Yeah.
So we don't know what's happening.
Okay. I don't know is the short answer, and so you'll have to let us know. You'll have to come back next year and tell me another.
What do y'all take letters?
You can send an email next week if you want. Whatever you
Do
want.
you have Instagram?
Unfortunately, yes. But I've only got like 12 followers. So
Do you take DMs or do you answer them? So no, the others.
I do not take DMs. No. Sorry. I already have 2 email accounts that I'm going to check, my law firm email account and my state senate email account. So yeah, no, I can't do that. And then you got Facebook, and people send direct messages on Twitter too. I can't check all those things. Okay. Right. Yes. What other questions do y'all have? Yes.
What's the like silliest law you passed? Like one that's kind of just like. That's a good one.
Oh gosh, there are so many of them. Sadly, you know, we have a lot of laws that are like the ones today, where we're making something the official state something, and those I think we do too many of those. For example, we have the official state song, which is what? Who can guess?
Rocky Top.
Do not. Oh, did not want you
Rocky
to say
Top
that.
is one of them.
No.
Anybody else?
Tennessee Waltz.
Tennessee Waltz. See, this is a problem. Nobody knows what the official state song is because there are 5 of them.
No.
And you've only heard of 2 of them, probably those 2, the Tennessee Waltz and Rocky Top. And there are a whole bunch of others. So I think at a certain point, you can have too many official state, whatever it is. I liked it better when I was a kid. You know, when I was your age, we had the official state animal was the raccoon. We had the official state flower was the iris.
Yeah.
That's all I remember. I think that was it. That was it. Now we have official
What's
state.
our bird? What's our bird?
Bird. It's it's a mockingbird.
What about state?
Remember?
I've never seen that.
Say what? Say tree. Poplar. It's the poplar tree.
You have on your farm?
Excellent. Okay. So I remember 4. Remember 4. I know. I'm glad I passed. Came up with this.
Second
Yes,
grade
sir.
came in handy.
Books available for them where they can look this stuff up.
We'll talk about
Do we have books?
it. I'm starting.
We might.
Okay, there's some more I want. Yeah, Representative White was gonna get some.
Some too, okay.
And,
Because we can
Yeah, can we maybe just give you part of them? Yeah.
that's what we were gonna do, because I know some are from your district.
Right.
There's probably a lot of kids.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, we weren't quite prepared for that. Yeah, so we do have one of the things that we're going to give you. Not all of you right this second. Some of you are going to have to give them to other offices, but there is a thing called the Blue Book, and it is a blue book, which makes sense. Last year it was an orange book. This year it is a blue book, and it has all these things in there about. It tells you all 5 official state songs, so that you can memorize the other 3 that I've forgotten, and it tells you about the poplar and the poplar tree and tulip poplar tree and all these other things. But it also has a bio of every one of your state legislators, and then it talks to you about the 3 different branches of government. And here's an interesting thing. So this is something I'm really proud of too. You didn't really ask me that. You asked about silly laws, but let's talk about not silly laws. Things that I'm really, really excited about. The thing that I'm most proud of that we did this week was Monday night. We had what is called let's see, what was it? It was the first ever judicial confirmation of a Supreme Court judge in Tennessee. Who knows what that was? Who can explain what that was? I think you know?
Nomination.
It was a judge?
Just quit looking at me, okay?
Okay, all right, well so let me explain it to you, because I'm really proud of this. It was the first time in history. Who knows when Tennessee became a state? 1796. That's right. America was 76. Yes, 96. It's out on the seal, as a matter of fact. That's right. And what is XVI?
XVI, that means
Yeah, that's right. It's Roman numerals for 16. Why do we have 16 on these?
because we're the 16th state.
16 state. Yeah, excellent. Y'all are well informed of this thing. Okay, so we did all. So since 1796, Tennessee has been a state, and we have never picked judges this way before Monday night. So we had a constitutional amendment that was on the ballot. It was called Amendment Number 2, and this was on the ballot. Now it was 2 years ago, in November of 2014. And so I'm proud to have been the sponsor of that amendment to the state constitution, because it changed the way we picked judges. What we had been doing was we had a system that was called the Missouri Plan, in which you had a panel of mostly lawyers. It was 17 lawyers, 14 lawyers, 3 non-lawyers, who took applications for appellate judge They took those names, they picked 3, they sent them to the governor, who had to pick one of those 3 names, or the governor could reject the first panel and had to pick from the second panel of names, and that was it. So the problem there, from my viewpoint, was that you had a group of unelected, unaccountable lawyers who were in essence picking our judges in the state. And I think that's bad for, once again, the separation of powers and for accountability. So we changed that by passing a constitutional amendment through the state House and Senate one time by a simple majority. Then you got to come back and do it 2 years later by a 2/3 majority in both the House and Senate. And then after that, it's got to go through one final step, which is called ratification. And what's that?
Who makes the cut?
This is a tough one. It's a tough one. What do you think?
Like process of approving law.
Yeah, we usually only use that word in terms of a constitutional amendment. But yes, it is the process of approving that constitutional amendment. Ratification is a fancy word for, we put it on the ballot, you had to vote on it. So the people had to vote on it, and they voted for it. A majority voted yes for it. And actually, it has to even be a majority of those who voted in the governor's race, so it's an even higher threshold. And that was great, so we put that into law, but then we had to actually carry this thing out and figure out what in the world does this new system look like. So I called this the Founding Fathers Plus Plan. And what we did was we borrowed the best from the Founding Fathers of America, and then we added a couple of extra, even better things. So it's now how are judges picked by on the federal level. You know, this is really important because we have an empty Supreme Court seat right now in the
president
US.
has to appoint them.
The president has to appoint, and then what happens? That's a 2-step process.
Let's go through that.
And then what'd you say?
And then
I think you got it right. Somebody. Who's the somebody that's got to say yes? It's not all of Congress. It's just the Senate. Right. So the Senate has to confirm. So it's the words in the Constitution, U.S. Constitution, are that it's the president appoints with the advice and consent of the Senate. So that's how that works on the federal level. So we borrowed from that. We said that the governor gets to appoint first, which he did. He appointed a judge named Roger Page. And then we added, though, the House as well. So you have to have confirmation by the Senate and the House. And then finally, we kept in place our 8-year judicial terms in Tennessee. And at the end of those 8 years, you have a yes or no confirmation or retention or replacement type of vote at the end of that time. So anyway, all that is to say, we had our very first confirmation that was a couple weeks ago. So as the other committees that I serve on are Judiciary and Government Operations, and in Judiciary Committee, I chair that committee. We held a hearing for about 2 hours. We asked this judge a lot of hard questions, and he gave a lot of really good answers, I thought. And so we voted 9-0 unanimously to confirm him. We sent that to the Senate, and then we got together with the House and the Senate on Monday night for the first time ever since in the history of the state, going all the way back to 1796, and we held a judicial confirmation vote. And guess how many people voted no for Judge Roger Page? Zero. Yeah. It went really, really well. 0. So hopefully he will be an excellent Supreme Court judge. There are, how many of them?
9.
9 on the U.S. level, but in Tennessee there are
5.
Yeah, so we got a full slate of 5 now. And how many are we missing on the federal level now? 1. Who was the judge, justice who just died? Justice Scalia. Yeah. So that makes this next election all that much more important, because this next election is probably going to determine who the person is who will actually appoint the replacement for that Supreme Court justice seat. And that is an extremely important decision to be made. So I hope that you will all keep up with the elections, and I hope that when you turn 18 that you will go and register to vote immediately on your birthday, and I hope that you will all get out there and vote.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Last question. No.
I don't have a question.
Okay. All right. So here's some blue. Do you want to pass them out?
We're just gonna take on and
Don't worry about it. Okay. All right.
if they don't, we'll contact Collins.
All right. Thank you all. Go Riverdale Raiders.
Oh, wait, I have a question.
Oh, goodness.